Hello there. We were right. David Cameron is up to his pro-EU tricks again. And was this part of the reason why Rishi Sunak hired him as Foreign Secretary? Oh, and Lee Anderson MP is not a happy bunny either. The UK government is on the move to hand over Gibraltar to Spain and the EU. The first thing they're planning on doing is allowing the EU to take Gibraltar into the single market and the Schengen area, says The Independent. And it appears it's a David Cameron initiative. And he's already said he wants the EU-UK deal on Gibraltar as quickly as possible. I have to wonder how long this deal has been cooking. And he did say he wanted the UK to be closer to the EU, didn't he? Now we're told it's based on a deal that we couldn't get agreed before Brexit happened. But already the Spanish Foreign Minister, José Manuel Álvarez, has rushed at this Cameron deal and said, "I would sign a deal with Britain over Gibraltar tomorrow." And he agreed that the UK and Spanish governments must move forward with this as soon as possible, to create a zone of shared prosperity in the Spanish area on the border with Gibraltar, he said. So this deal must well be different from the original intended one we couldn't agree on. This new one obviously must be very advantageous to Spain, one imagines. And Gibraltar will of course have to adhere to single market rules and inevitably fall under the jurisdiction of the ECJ. I doubt the EU will allow it in any other way. The same sort of arrangements as Northern Ireland, but also with the freedom of movement of people. Something that comes out while we're all distracted with the Middle East. And it looks like we will be rushing this through at pace before any opposition can be mobilised. And the PM, Rishi Sunak, has just cancelled a meeting with his Greek counterpart, just in case the issue of the UK giving up the Elgin marbles comes up. Maybe Prime Minister Mitsotakis of Greece had got wind of this Gibraltar deal and was going to say, if we're giving up Gibraltar, why not the Elgin marbles? Now I'm wondering if Cameron is going to use this as a model for us to give over who knows what, the Channel Islands for example? How about Scotland? The SNP will be all over this, demanding the same deal. Now the report says that the Schengen area will be used to ease the free movement of people between Spain and Gibraltar. That sounds to me like language used to camouflage the intention for Gibraltar to join the Schengen area. Now, if Gibraltar is within the Schengen area, will that mean that tourists from the UK, for example, are then subject to the 90-day Schengen travel arrangements? And what of its use as a military facility? And how about Gibraltar's territorial waters? As I understand it, EU boats can't fish in Gibraltar's waters. But Spain is continually sending its fishing boats into Gibraltar waters so as to push the envelope. And in fact, the matter keeps coming up with the EU Commission. So I'm wondering if this will also be part of the great UK fire sale to the EU. And how will it affect UK's almost £5 billion worth of exports to Gibraltar? It will no doubt also include massive increases in customs paperwork between the UK and Gibraltar, just like Northern Ireland. Cameron is about to place a border between the UK and a British overseas territory. At the moment, any UK citizen wanting to visit the Rock for visits, study or work does not need a visa. But will that now be changing because of the Schengen area? And the fact that both the UK and Spanish governments want to press ahead with this at speed should worry us all. The whole thing stinks of a plan already drawn up by our pro-EU establishment for Gibraltar to end up under EU and eventually Spanish control. An exact replica of the Northern Ireland situation. From a British overseas territory to an EU colony. As I've said before, the pro-EU types have no imagination. The answer to everything for them is more EU. So why did Sunak hire Cameron? Well, the answer seems to be coming out, doesn't it? And how about this one? Not only has the Home Office somehow lost 17,316 asylum seekers whose claims have been withdrawn, we have this. Giving evidence to the Home Affairs Committee are Sir Matthew Rycroft, KCMG CBE, Permanent Secretary of the Home Office, and Simon Ridley, Interim Second Permanent Secretary of the Home Office. And here's Tory MP Tim Lawton asking the question.
So, is it correct that 17,316 claims were withdrawn between September 2022 and September 2023?
That sounds about right.
If you say that I don't have the exact number, it is absolutely the case as we go through much higher numbers of decisions that you would expect a number of withdrawals. We've got clear thresholds for when we withdraw, which is when people don't engage with the process. So if individuals don't show for an interview twice, or if individuals don't respond to requests for questionnaires twice, then their claim is withdrawn.
People magically not going forward with their claims, and where are those people?
In most cases, I don't know where those people are.
We have no record of that 307% increase. The 17,316 claims withdrawn in the last year. You haven't a clue where those people now are.
So these are people who have made a claim, who we have sought to invite to interviews, or we have sent out questionnaires, who have not responded, and the point at which they are not engaging with the system that leads to a decision, we have withdrawn their claim.
So you tick them off the list, but they haven't gone home.
They haven't
gone home.
I don't know.
We don't know. So you have no idea where those 17,316 people are.
I don't think we know where all those people are. No.
You have no idea. Thank you very much, Chair.
Can I just ask, Mr. Ridley, why don't you have the figures for withdrawals? Why are you not able to confirm what Tim Lawton just said? I just
haven't got the precise number in front of me.
Quite an important figure to have had there, isn't it?
I find this amazing that we were going to talk to you, obviously, about the backlog because it's a key Prime Minister priority. He said by the end of December we're going to clear the legacy backlog. So I would have thought you would have been, chapter and verse on all the figures in relation to the backlog and what had happened to all those claims, withdrawals, ones that have been accepted, ones that have been turned down. Don't you have any of that information?
So we've got all of that information. Indeed, we're managing all of that information. The teams are managing that daily.
Yeah. So you do have the figures then.
So we've got the figures. We kind of obviously because we're managing our way through the backlog, and we published a load of the numbers and the latest position at the end of September last week.
But the figures.
Indeed.
Today, we're asking you questions today about the figures. You say you don't know what the figures are.
And that is an inevitability when you let people into the UK who either can't or won't answer questions, have thrown away their paperwork and won't tell you where they are from. And we put them up in hotels or other accommodation from which they can walk away. Right into the arms of the underground economy. An underground economy that seems to be tolerated so as to provide such a service. And now we go on to Lee Anderson. He asked two separate sets of questions, and the drawing of hen's teeth seems to be the order of the day for our Whitehall mandarins.
Questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we know that once the Rwanda scheme's hopefully working, that we will accept refugees in return, special cases of refugees. Could you please tell me, Mr. Mycroft, how many that would be and at what cost and who pays for it?
So there's no number agreed with the government of Rwanda for that. But what you're referring to is the fact that, of course, if a Rwandan came across on a small boat or on any other illegal entry, they wouldn't be able to go back to Rwanda. No, it's those sorts of people.
I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to there is an agreement in place where we accept special cases that live in Rwanda that they can't cope with. Maybe people with mental health problems or medical problems. So what is the number we expect? At what cost? And who pays for it?
So that's part of the partnership with the government of Rwanda, and I don't think that we've reached an agreement. I don't think we've got a number in mind.
You don't know.
There isn't a number. Just as there isn't a number of the total number of people going to Rwanda.
So it could be 1 for 1.
It won't be 1 for 1.
So you do have a number.
We don't have a number.
Okay, well that's not very helpful. So accommodation in Rwanda, obviously it's sat there empty at the moment. At what cost?
Well, that's a cost that the government of Rwanda is bearing.
Okay, so what's the weekly cost of that accommodation? Do we know what we're paying for, what we're not using?
So we're not the way the agreement between the two governments is structured means that we're not paying the actual costs. We're paying a certain amount, which is based on an assessment of how much it will cost, and then the actual costs are paid for by the government of Rwanda, and then they bear any risk if those costs happen to be higher than what we had
okay, let's try a third question, which I'll probably not get an answer to. If the Rwanda scheme doesn't go ahead, what's plan B?
I think the Prime Minister and Home Secretary and other ministers will be the right people to answer that question. The Home Office is putting a huge amount of effort into continuing to make the Rwanda scheme work, and that is our top priority. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we have a team in Rwanda at the moment negotiating the treaty.
I know that was like. Are you currently working on a plan B?
Well, of course, we do all sorts of contingency planning the whole time. So there is lots of planning going on, but I wouldn't want to call it a plan B that would sound as though there's some very specific thing that ministers have already decided, because they haven't, and when they do decide, they will make the announcements in the normal way.
Markov, I'll ask you one more time. Are we working on a plan B? Are you working on a plan B if the Rwanda scheme fails?
We're working on lots of ways to stop the boats.
That's neatly done, Chair. I can't ask any more questions.
James,
Thanks, Simon. Hi, guys. Just one question from me. Put foreign offenders aside and Albanians aside, just forget about those numbers. How many people travelling on small boats that's been refused asylum have been sent to a third country or back to their own country over the past 3 years?
I don't think we have. I
think we'll write to the committee with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
That's staggering. That's actually
okay,
then let's do it for the last year.
I don't have a number for non-Albanian, non-FNOs.
Perhaps they might be able to help you.
Let's do last week then.
Do we have any figures about anything?
No? Yes.
In the last 6 months, just how many in the last 6 months?
As Simon said, there are charter flights and other ways of doing returns the whole time, constantly, and we can give you whatever timeline
and Albanians aside, like. People who are coming here who are being refused asylum, because I'm sure there's a few. How many was sent back last month?
Incoming.
We'll write to you with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry, Chair, but I find it absolutely staggering that the big boss hasn't got a clue, not just on this question, but nearly every other question we've asked today. Why is that?
We've got that. I think Mr. Ridley's looking for the numbers, and we will send them to you.
Okay, that's me done, Chair. Thank you.
Lee Anderson was not very happy with that pair, was he? Those answers were far from convincing. I wonder how deep that goes.